Hi, thanks for joining us at the Behavioural Software Club. I'm Andy Brown, and today we're going to be talking about why our regression packs end up full of junk tests, even when we have better tests available. Maybe you've experienced this yourself. Perhaps you've built a test automation framework, then added some tests, and then some more. You keep adding tests until one day you turn around and realise your whole test pack is full of junk tests. And you wonder, how on earth did that happen? To explain this, we're going to look at an effect known as the Endowment Effect. But first, let's transport ourselves to the EuroSTAR testing conference in Prague. Imagine you're at the conference and see a talk about why your regression pack is full of junk tests. Curious, you wander in. Conference helper at the entrance hands you a fridge magnet shaped like a London double-decker bus. You stroll towards a seat, playing with your fridge magnet, which is allowed at conferences. You spot a friend waving at you, so you sit beside him. He's holding a ballpoint pen decorated with a Union Jack flag. The talk starts and the speaker explains that the fridge magnet or pen that you're holding are mementos from England. It's yours to keep, he says. But imagine the following. Suppose now someone at the conference wanted your fridge magnet and offered to buy it. How much money would you want for it? Okay, he says, suppose you wanted a Union Jack pen. How much would you pay to get one? Now, raise your hand if the money you need to give up your fridge magnet is greater than the money you're prepared to pay to obtain that pen. Most of the 300 people in the conference hall raise their hands. This is the endowment effect. It's the tendency to demand more to relinquish an object that we own than we are prepared to pay to acquire an equivalent object we don't own. Interesting, you think, but what's this got to do with regression packs? And the answer is lots. As you build up those regression packs, you take ownership of the tests inside it. They become yours. And just like that fridge magnet, you hate to give them up. Now, there are a couple of further factors acting here. Firstly, if you've used the object, you'll value it more. So, those in the conference hall who used their pen to take notes valued it more. I don't suppose anyone in the conference hall used the fridge magnet, but if they did, they'd have valued that more too. And of course, we've used the tests in our regression pack. Sometimes we use them every day. So we value them more and are reluctant to give them up. Secondly, if you have control over your choice, then you will value it more. Because we were getting 300 people rapidly into a conference hall, we couldn't let them choose. But even so, most people still ended up valuing their object more highly. Of course, with our regression packs, we have lots of choice about which tests we create. And so, of course, we value them more highly and are reluctant to pull them out of the pack. So, how do we end up with regression packs full of junk tests? When we start out building a regression pack, we only have a few tests. So, there's no pressure to remove the least valuable ones, and they remain in the pack. Gradually, the pack fills up. Eventually, we get to a point where we have more tests than time to run them. At this point, any new tests we create are probably more valuable than those older ones. However, those older ones have been in our possession for some time. We own them. And as we value things we own more than things we don't own, we find it very difficult to replace the old tests with the newer, more valuable ones. And so our regression packs become bloated with junk tests. Now, the endowment effect is responsible for more than just bloated regression packs. It also causes feature bloat. Once a requirement has been captured and documented as a feature, someone will own that feature, at least in their mind, and they'll be reluctant to drop it in favour of a new one. especially if that new one is someone else's. The endowment effect is also contributes to many redundant processes and procedures that we have that were once useful but have outlived their usefulness and haven't been removed. Many organisations have swim lanes, change boards, Prince2 and ITIL procedures that once served a purpose but no longer do. Now, the endowment effect must have provided our ancestors with an evolutionary benefit. Otherwise, this trait simply would never have evolved in us. So, what could that benefit have been? Well, one possibility is that it helped us in negotiations. Consider an imaginary tribe that consists of just two people, a hunter and a forager. The nutritional benefits of a mixed diet mean that it makes sense for the hunter to exchange meat with the forager in return for berries and other foraged items. However, the endowment effect means that both the hunter and the forager will each value their own possession more. Now, exchange will occur, but the two parties will not exchange fully. This means that the hunter will eat too much meat and the forager will eat too many berries. At first sight, the endowment effect seems to lead to suboptimal results for both parties. However, there's another factor in play. The endowment effect moves the negotiating threat point, which is the point at which we threaten to walk away from a deal. It moves that threat point in our favour, and the benefit of shifting our negotiating threat point is greater than the loss of not making a full exchange. In our evolutionary past, we probably had few parties we could exchange goods with, and we had imperfect information. So it made sense to value your own possessions more highly. A related explanation, one that borrows from game theory, is as follows. There's often a large uncertainty in the evolutionary fitness value of the object that the other party wishes to trade. You don't know how good their stuff is. Furthermore, the interest shown by the other party is a pretty good signal that the object we own is more valuable than the object they want to trade with us. So, hang on to your own stuff, or get taken for a sucker. Other possible explanations include loss aversion from prospect theory, psychological inertia or the status quo bias, and biased information processing. As well as the endowment effect, other biases also contribute to bloated regression packs. Firstly, the IKEA effect will cause us to value more highly things we have built or partially assembled. This includes those tests in the regression pack. Another effect is superstitious thinking. And this is where we continue doing something, or we have a lucky ritual, because we did this ritual before and it worked, although we don't quite know why. So we continue doing the ritual or keeping that test in the pack, never quite sure if it's doing anything useful. Another pair of biases that may drive us to keep tests in a pack are outcome bias and omission bias. Outcome bias is where we are judged by the outcome of a decision, rather than the thought processes that produce that decision. Omission bias is where, if something goes wrong, we are blamed more severely for doing something than we are blamed for failing to do something. In the case of regression packs, omission bias would cause us to be blamed more severely for removing a test that would have caught a bug than failing to add a test that would have caught the same bug. So, what can we do about bloated regression packs? Well, the first thing is, now we have an awareness of this effect, we can look at our regression packs in a new light. Another thing we can do is bring in an independent external person to review the regression pack. They'll look at those tests, both ones inside and outside the pack, with a dispassionate eye, judging each test solely by its own merit. We can also try to become attached to the new tests, although this does have limited benefits. As always, you should identify what is the goal in reassessing a regression pack. Is it to reduce the pack size, reduce the maintenance, prioritize the pack, or some other goal? In other sessions, we'll look at some of the other biases we mentioned here and see how they influence software development. Things such as the IKEA effect, status quo effect, outcome bias, and omission bias. If you've enjoyed this session, please give us a thumbs up on the link below. And if you're interested in how human factors influence software development, please hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching this video from the Behavioural Software Club, and I hope to see you again.